Well, hello, Hugh. I'm glad to have you as the heartbeat of America today, and wanted to talk to you about that interesting idea that you have about the Y-Pod. How's things going?
Well, I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's at a critical time for mankind. I actually first was spiritually given the information about creating the Y-Pod in 2011. I have put strategies out that are Y-Pod related that cannot be stopped. So I feel very comfortable at this point in time to illuminate the masses globally so we can go to positive timelines for our future and the present, which are based more on spirituality and unconditional agape love. So the Y-Pod can be very powerful, but it also can be manipulated, except the beauty of it is that the people that attempt to manipulate it in a way that is not for the good of all, through the transparency and the way spirituality works, they will be discovered and they will be taken care of in the best possible way for the benefit of mankind, exposing them and doing whatever legally to stop whatever they were doing. So in essence, what I'm saying to the global elites, you're finished. You think you have things under control. You're already falling apart. The big structures in governments and businesses, religions, and economics, it's all falling apart in different ways with the old paradigm. So here's where we bring in the new paradigm that can be rebuilt for the benefit of all. So,
that's interesting, Hugh, because you mentioned Y-Pod, and I just want to clarify, it's spelled Y-Pod, and that stands for something, does it?
Yes, it stands for Your Personal Opportunity Database. So people are familiar with the iPod, that's where I got the concept. I'm now taking the iPod, which actually is a device that has all kinds of uses for information, and now from the spiritual realm, the Y-Pod, you can interact with your iPod or any other device that you can extract information from, and then empower yourself based on networking and bringing strategies into the forefront that we can provide, or that you can develop through learning more through us, or just the basic understanding by opening your heart to God. And it's not about any particular religion or anything. It's about a personal heart-to-God connection. That's when the unlimited creativity kicks in. So I'm going to give a brief description of the most simple concept of the Y-Pod in a little bit more of a sophisticated way. It can be utilized by anyone immediately, and they can come back to us for personalization or to learn more about the way strategies can be tailored and implemented in the areas of interest they have. The basic concept of the Y-Pod is totally free to all mankind, and that can be as simple as an index card file, which you give value to and empower by the way you interact and network with it. That's the most simple and basic thing, so people may have to come back and really think or ask God to help them with what's being said in this program, and it will fall into place in the right way through opening up your heart to God's direction. A little bit more of a sophisticated way, the Y-Pod may be utilized on social media, through a website, through a blog, or anything along those lines. Those can be portals to sophisticated, computer-coded, pre-qualified opportunities that are kept in the loving circles secretly until they're ready to be transparently rolled out to the world. Now, the Y-Pod is signified by Your Personal Opportunity Database. So, in essence, everything on the internet is a database, and information is prevalent everywhere. So the YPod is where you're interacting with your own way of thinking and doing things with all the information. And this YPod also, for people that are sort of like gurus and life coaches and business leaders, this has the potential for books, online educational courses, events, computer software development, and even internet games, which will allow people to expand their consciousness and creativity. I equate the YPod to, as Henry Ford invented the first automobile, the Model T, only had that one specific model, but look at everything that's on the road today. So it's really these people that want to come to us to learn how to utilize it in the way that they can to help their networks. So that's a choice people will have to make as they think about it, but just know this, that anyone that is on the spiritual path to pray and ask that God helps this manifest so that we can avoid what has the potential to blow up the planet. And here I also caution global leaders of all countries to understand that the greatest asset of any country is its people. So in North Korea and Russia and China and other countries like that, if you're manipulating and controlling your people without allowing them to tap into their creativity and be a blessing to their own country, people, and mankind, that is all going to strategically work out so that people with the communications will see things that they don't have, and they're going to want that. And that's where, as a leader, you have the opportunity to, again, do things peacefully and learn by coming back to us. So I will help anybody, including North Korea, if he wants to change his ways. And I will say this, whether you believe it or not, we all came from spirit. And eventually, we're going to return to spirit. 100 years is like the blink of an eye in terms of eternity. You can't take the material goods with you, and you will be fully accountable for everything you do here. I was blessed with an earth angel wife for 35 and a half years who taught me the lesson of unconditional love. And that's what I say we all incarnated to learn. As we learn it, we're supposed to be a blessing to others, especially those who can't help themselves. So you have the opportunity through, again, going over the information being given here to change your ways, and perhaps before you get the game over sign, so to speak, and go back into spirit, at least you will have adjusted a knowledge of being accountable personally for what you did here. And I've had such a bizarre life that I have a website that you control for me on my behalf, which I'm so thankful for. So people can really go in and look over that whole website, which has got a Facebook page too that has some interesting updated information whenever it can be posted on there. But there's a couple of fascinating books on one of the pages. I think it's Media Review. One book is titled The KGB, The Eyes of Russia, written by Harry Rositsky. I want to give an example of synchronicity because we all have them in our lives, and that's another big area that people just dismiss as a coincidence. Well, I spoke with both the authors of the books on Media Review back in the 80s. It was way before the Internet. Harry Rositsky, who was high-level CIA, had retired from the CIA and had a gentleman's horse farm in Northern Virginia, and he was studying religion, theology, and spirituality. Funny how they do that when they retire from the CIA. But in any event, I lost contact with him over the years, and in 2008, something triggered me to see if he might still be alive. I noticed he had passed. In his obituary, 4 synchronicities jumped right out at me. His name was Harry. My father's name was Harry. His wife's name was Barbara Helen. My mother-in-law's name was Helen. His daughter's name was Anne Elizabeth Hunt. My wife's name was Anne Elizabeth. My mother's maiden name was Hunt. Now, you find 4 synchronicities in one little obituary. That's pretty bizarre. But high-level CIA, it's off the charts. And then there is a YouTube related to Harry Rositsky that can be listened to. And here again, I say that America has, because of protecting our freedoms, in some ways done some things that might have been underhanded, but all of that will sort itself out too. So we're no longer the ugly American corporations that have come here and planted their headquarters here and then go into third world countries to extract all the resources, as discussed by, I think it's John Perkins in his book, The Economic Hitman. That might be something good for people to read too, to see what goes on. And since I'm mentioning books, there's a tremendous book. It's titled Broker, Broker, Trader, Trader, Lawyer, Lawyer, Spy, Spy, written by Amon, Emon Javers. So these books will give you a deeper insight as to some of the things that I have read, and then again, you'll be able to go off on your own tangents. But the main thing is not to buy into anything that people say with sound bites and accept it because it resonates with you. What you want is what the Wall Street Journal article has, that is also on the website rootingoutcorruption.weebly.com. It has factual information. And in there, you're going to see where everything started shifting from the early 80s. That was around the time of the S&L banking scandal. So the elites were looking to do something to collapse the economy back then, but it was premature. So 2008 happened. It didn't completely shut down the way some of them may have hoped. And I don't think it ever will, because people now will be creating their own new economies before total chaos sets in globally. And that's what they want. That's the agenda. Stay off the streets. If there are groups that want to get a permit and go out and protest, that's their right. The cameras will be there to greet them. They'll see who they are. If they do anything destructive, they'll be dealt with. So if you want to put your body in jeopardy by opposing them with a view, then you're going to have just as much trouble as they're going to be in. So really think carefully. And all the terrorists, this has things built into these strategies that you're not even going to know who you're dealing with anymore. The book, the KGB, The Eyes of Russia, beautifully points out during the Second World War, trading companies all over the world were headed by CIA. They loved it. They were making money hand over fist. And when they shut the program down after the war, a lot of them was disgruntled. So there again, information, as much as it's being utilized in evil ways by terrorists, that's going to be put into check with the technologies and strategies in place right now. So keep calm, everybody, wherever you are. If you're in a country where you can't trust the authorities, just trust in God. And if you are in a country where you can trust the authorities, if you see something, say something, let them handle it. And that's what we do in America. America, there's never been a country like it in the world. I, as a Vietnam era veteran, will, until I take my last breath, look to get this country back on track and have it be the beacon for the rest of the world, not through control, conquer, and divide, but through new paradigms based on spirituality and unconditional agape love that will show that we want freedom, liberty, and justice for the whole world. And we're exemplifying that because we can unite in peace, embrace our diversities, and come into our communities and learn from each other. And there's a lot of healing that has to be done, and people keep saying that, and they talk about it. It's time for the action. It's time for people, instead of protesting, to see what they can do to get into community rooms and learn about each other and give each other the respect that is deserved. And some of the most wisdom will come from the indigenous elders that have had things passed down orally for thousands of years. We need that right now desperately to heal the environment and to really come together in peaceful ways. So again, it's not about religion. It's not about politics, but politics is going to change too, because I tell everybody every time in this country that you come into contact with any politician from now on, just keep repeating it to them. Don't tell me what you can do for me once you're elected. You tell me right here and now, today, what you can do for this community, for the state, for the country. The people have the answers. Let the politicians get the answers through interacting with the people, and once they're elected, that they do represent those interests instead of the special interests to get them into office and keep them there. And it's so sickening to see a piece on 60 Minutes a while back where these senators and congressmen are required by their political party to raise funds 30 hours a week. How is that even representing the people? And then they have to do photo ops to allow a constituent to say, wow, I met my congressman. Well, I will give you a good example of being sort of like a way shower and politics. If you put veteran Hugh, H-U-G-H, Traulsen, Traulsen, I tested something, the power of one vote. And I have an absentee ballot, which is required by law to have a witness be present when I'm completing it. Well, I checked with the County Board of Elections to see if there would be any problem in me having a politician, a candidate running for office, be the witness to me completing the ballot. You'll see what happened with Dave Bratt, who was running against Eric Cantor at the time, and then you'll also see that I was successful, and I don't think that's ever been done before. So now is the time to really step out in peaceful ways and test your own abilities, asking God to help and guide you. I know there's so many people, I hear it constantly, the millennials and others, that they don't want the world that they're in right now, and they don't know what to do to change it. Well, at the very least, pray. That is a powerful way to let God put the ego in check where it needs to be globally. And if enough people do that and the consciousness rises, we will shift very quickly into a more peaceful, loving world. And it's already been known in high crime areas. I think it was in Washington, D.C., they had prayer groups over a summer period come together to see if they could lower the crime rate, and the police chief didn't believe it would happen, but it did. So there again, when you start looking at life the way Einstein said that there's miracles all around, instead of looking at it in a negative way, then you'll be able to co-create those miracles when you have the right kind of heart-to-God relationship. So again, to the leaders of the world too, recognize your people, that they are there not to control and to enrich your life, but that you are just the same as them, whether you believe it or not. No matter how much education anybody has, no matter who they think they are, in the end, we're all equal, and especially those who can't help themselves. If you start helping those people, that will be a blessing back to you. So there's all kinds of different things that I'm doing that Dave is aware of and helping me with. And just to give an idea what could happen on the horizon, since I have a self-taught expertise of what I term creative utilization of information, there is a way to actually franchise information globally. Sort of, let's say Starbucks, they're all over the world. You can have that kind of a facility, but set up in a way where people in the community can come together and interact in ways to solve problems and discuss business opportunities. And at the same time, that's not just in the community, through the internet, it can be extended out into regions and globally. So I have a strategy that is very interesting, that is going to be a shocker for corporations. And I will preface it by saying this. I did speak with a CEO of a major oil company who had retired a few years back. And in the brief conversation I had with him, I threw out something that I said that you have middle managers, you think that they're at their workstations doing due diligence for the company, but how do you know that they're not brokering business opportunities to enrich their own lives, their friends, and family? He said it's already happening. That's the breakdown. That's where the control, conquer, and divide of the big corporations, that's why they're falling apart in social media. They can't keep up with it. They don't know what to do with it. It's all about sell, 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 sell. Well, you can have the best product, the best customer service. That's no longer enough. If you're not being good to your employees, your customers, the environment, and giving back to the community in ethical, legal, moral, transparent ways, you're very quickly going to go by the wayside. And here's a big thing for people and individual, even union employees and companies to really contemplate. There's a couple of brief articles on rootingoutcorruption.weebly.com related to video transforming the world. I have something where a company can teach its customers and even the employees how to get the money back that they spend on products and services, make more money on top of that, and benefit the company teaching them with growing passive income. Now, that has not yet been out or done in the way that I'm doing it, and it can't be stopped. So everything that I'm doing is to bless others. It's not ego-based, and everything that is ego-based will sort itself out and self-destruct eventually. So this is pretty powerful stuff that I hope, even if you don't understand it now, I've had conversations where somebody overheard me speaking with someone and said, you know what, that guy, in 15 years, a light bulb's going to go up and he's going to understand what you said. I'm not here to sell anything or convince you. I'm here after having a very bizarre life and a near-death experience. I'm no longer here for me. I'm here as a blessing to mankind. So I hope that I'll be accepted in that way. I have no fear. I have said, and I'll say it right here again, that God has harmonics, which are sound waves. When they come, you can be a global elite sitting on your yacht in the Mediterranean sipping a pina colada. You might spontaneously combust or explode. The same thing if you're in an underground bunker somewhere, because God's harmonics will go where God wants them to go. You can change your ways and live a little longer if you start doing the right thing by caring and sharing with people in the right way. The host of the radio show, when I said that, he said, aren't you afraid of retribution? I said, retribution for what? I didn't do anything wrong. They did. If they have a hitman take me out, I'll eat the hitman's brains out from the spirit world. It'll be quite painful. I'll be more gentle on him than the guy who hired him. Now, I'm saying it for years. I'm not putting it out as a challenge, but I will say that, God willing, if that ever happened, I ask God that He would allow me to do that. And it's not a threat, it's a promise. So I stand in truth and light. People that have fooled with me also have died, which you'll discover. And I didn't ask for that to happen. And again, people have been exposed, as you'll see from the Wall Street Journal article, that have lied and then had to, it was their own words that came back on them that convicted them. So here again, words are very powerful too. Be careful what you say. Once it comes out of your mouth, it's too late. So really contemplate what you're saying to people, and when you're talking about something, try and be factual and definitely investigate to be sure any information that you're looking at is factual. Now, there's conspiracies which are all over the place. That's well and good as long as taxpayer dollars aren't being spent on the money. But I laugh too because I did a online magazine interview after Hugh Traulsen, if you put a simple man with a big message. I was in survival when I was in the Air Force during the Vietnam era war, and if I was the greatest survivalist on planet Earth and managed to kill everybody, what a guy, huh? Now I'm only the only one left. All of a sudden an ET comes along, doesn't like the way I look and takes me out. Tell me, what did I really accomplish? So again, before you start fighting with someone, understand that what I've learned through my friend and mentor, Dr. Ed Maloney, who's a wonderful human being, which you'll learn more about through investigating us, he said nobody ever wins an argument. So if you want to go on radio shows and just create chaos and argue all the time, that's your choice. But the people that this message is geared toward are the ones that really know in their heart that they came here for a purpose, and that is to really learn what unconditional love is and to be a blessing to others as they learn it, and that will also be a blessing back to them. I have something. I'm sorry?
That's sound was just a synchronicity with the timing of what you were saying. We've come upon a halfway mark here, and you have compressed a tremendous amount of information. And again, this is Dave Solano, and I'm talking with Hugh Traulsen, the Heartbeat of America. And tonight we've been discussing his Y-Pod and all the information that's packed around that he's been sharing with us, along with a wealth of other information. And I just want to go back to something you touched on before about, people in the workforce doing their own thing and the employer not being able to keep tabs on them. And I want to bring point right now of what's happening in the world relative to cybersecurity. And right now in the corporate world, we run across one of the components of cybersecurity called the insider threat. And that is that person in that office who may not be too happy, may not like his boss, may not like what the company is doing, and may want to sabotage things. And we've seen this through Edward Snowden, what he did. And I'm not going to judge right or wrong. I have my own personal feelings. But this threat that we have of a person going on their own and going nuclear or whatever is something that's real today. And for those in the tech world that handle all things cyber, this particular aspect is something to keep an awareness of. And now it's another effort that a company has to take to watch what's going on inside, especially when people start poking around areas of the business that they shouldn't be looking at. They're looking at documents and data that they have no business looking at, and things start to tell a story of a person who's possibly going wrong. So getting back to your point about how we maintain control of not only the corporate lives and the personal lives within those corporations, but now we're looking at it from a different perspective in terms of the technical lives of the company and the business end of the company and what it has to do to survive. And along with the insider threat, there's that ever-persistent outsider threat that's continuing to find new ways to steal revenue, to disparage a company, to embarrass a company, and take away revenue through the commercial processes that they work so hard to do. But again, let me let you pick it back up again. I just wanted to intervene there.
Well, it was a perfect segue for that, and I thank you for that, because I'll pick up on that note, go a little bit further. I've been in places and seen things that most people haven't at all different levels of business, and I always did my job as I was required to do. And when I sort of had some disabilities that forced me into the contract security field, and because of the low pay, worked 100-hour weeks, but I knew that I wanted to explore beyond just having a physical presence, my own entrepreneurial abilities. So I functioned as an independent international marketing consultant, and that's eventually where I exposed the gentleman in the Wall Street Journal article, which again is so important to read because it beautifully describes how special interests and lobbyists have totally corrupted Washington, and it was before Ross Perot talked about it back in the 80s. And that's where everything started shifting with media and more control. So all these technologies, if they're looking at me, I don't mind that, but I want to look back a little bit. Where's the transparency with you? Who are you? You're not going to put a chip in me willingly. You'll have to get me while I'm asleep, and I'm not going to be somebody else's robot. So I believe that through the conspiracies that I hear, that's a big plan. And here, through this special day and what's coming with the eclipse on Monday, I understand that's going to change the energies tremendously, and that's why I'm so grateful that we had this time to get this YouTube put together, to get it right out onto the Internet, to go global as the energies shift, to really root out that corruption where it needs to go. And you will see Dave has some documents up there related to my interaction with big companies, and they circumvented me on different opportunities, and but yet there was other people who truly respected. There's actually a sort of a mentor and a friend who passed, a very respected, world-renowned franchising and business development consultant, David D. Seltz, and he was chairman of the Global Franchise Committee over in Switzerland a couple of years, authored some 30 books. One of his most latest ones was Branchizing, BRANCHISING, ways for companies to expand and diversify. And back in the 80s, he was totally fascinated by what I had in my head and other people like him. And so he was trying to get organizations started with that. This was way before the Internet, but unfortunately he took ill and passed. So when people think I am simple. I like to break things down to the simplest thing, but I am also very astute, detail-oriented, and there again, be careful, whoever you are, that thinks that you're going to implement terrorist things through your connections on the Internet. You will be found out, if not by me. God will put it in check. Things do malfunction sometimes. So I just wanted to say, too, that do your job the way you're hired to do it. I don't want to cause any chaos in any workplace. If you're there and you have a job description, union or whatever, you do that job. But beyond that, when you can learn through our strategies and through the employers that will want to pick up on them willingly, you can, while you're even working, have your own family roll out a lot of strategies globally that will bring passive income that will satisfy your basic needs, if not more than what you're making on the job. So when you get ready to leave it, then hopefully you'll be a blessing and teach people in the right way, in the best way possible, not like what another thing I saw in 60 Minutes where big corporations now are looking to bring in low-cost labor and displace people who've been loyal to the company for 20, 30 years and give them a date that they'll have to be finished and say that they'll get extra compensation if they train the person that's going to replace them properly. No, that's old paradigm. That's bad. That's negative thinking, and that's going to hurt those companies, the ones that are doing that, very badly. So they can change. Otherwise, again, I want to interject this. I don't mean to bash it, but it's factual news. I tell people constantly that election day is every single day you buy a product. So look at what you're buying. If you're buying lead-based painted toys out of China through Walmart, your kids don't have a choice, but you do. So buy American, buy from a country or company that is doing what I said earlier, being good to their employees, their customers, the environment, and giving back to the community. A lot of people don't know, and you can check it on the Internet. Walmart paid a fine of $82 million for dumping pesticides down storm drains. Now, they paid the fine. It's in and out of the consciousness of people, and they moved on. So that's not to stop them from doing it again and doing something else until they get caught. And that fine, $82 million, is a big chunk of money and a lot of people, but compare that to the kind of money that Walmart makes. It's minuscule. So there's corporations, a lot of whistleblowers are bringing forth things that need to be brought forth, because if your children are going to be drinking poison water because somebody paid off a politician and they're going to die from it, or you're going to die from it, I think we can find ways to have basic products, and even the packaging, if it can just doesn't have to have advertising all over it, that's recyclable. All these things have to be looked at very carefully for our future globally, not just America, but all over the world. And let's preserve as much as we can of the environment, especially the Amazon forests. There's so much healing medicinal things from the plants down there that are being discovered, and the indigenous people, again, they know how to use those things. So these big pharmaceutical companies that want to give you a pill for everything and then keep upping it, and then somebody like myself that is on Social Security that can't afford it because my income doesn't increase, but all the prices keep increasing. So we want to help the seniors too discover ways that they can use their brain power that they've survived this long to even bring it to the family and get the family around the dinner table again and do entrepreneurial ventures again based on strategies and actually existing passive income things that can really help the family and those young children before they go to college and get into debt. They might become entrepreneurial enough to pay their whole college tuition before they even set foot on a campus, or maybe they'll choose a different path because they're set for life in something that the family helped them get together entrepreneurial for what their interests are. And those that are in college, those that are saddled with the college debt and all the expenses and youth that you want to have the new toys, the new cars, the new homes, and then when the babies come, you're locked in there for, if you're responsible parents, for quite a few years to just take care of all those needs. So people too, it's already been shown that the jobs aren't the same as your grandfather had, where he put the 30, 40 years in for a company and got his pension. So people are shifting and changing jobs constantly. A lot of people have 3 and 4 jobs. I know that even though when I worked 100-hour weeks, I would work a shift 11 at night to 7 in the morning, 7 days a week, pick up double shifts on the weekends, and then work day jobs 9 to 5 or whatever. I did what I had to do to keep the family taken care of and put together. But the children always got coverage. I always made sure that either my wife or myself was there for them. So I am especially attuned to helping mothers, especially single mothers, and the fathers. I tell them that if you're divorced or you father that child, that's karma. You better start doing everything you can. You took part in the creation of that child. You're responsible for that child. So help those mothers, and the mothers get that child into the right frame of mind to understand that it's not all about the material things. Don't let them get out into the streets and get into the drug deals and all the craziness with gangs and stuff like that. You just get the grandmothers involved, and grandmothers are a big blessing to young children because they have more patience, and the children tend to want to go to the grandmothers to get what they can't get from the mothers, and the grandmothers love spoiling them. So let all that happen. But either way, I have a big heart to empower women and indigenous people globally in all my work. And I've had experiences where with the indigenous I'm not trusted, and I can't blame them for that. But we have to truly understand, if you look back through history, no matter what skin color, no matter what background, I think almost every, if not every, type of race has been genocided or controlled, enslaved. So it's really time to appreciate and commiserate with those whose families suffered slavery, and the indigenous people especially too, that are sitting on these concentration-type camp reservations. They're supposed to be sovereign governments, but our government keeps interfering and breaking treaties all over the place. I want to reference a very interesting woman who did a television program on book C-SPAN 2 in depth just earlier this month. Her name is Krisanne, Krisanne, I believe, Hall, Hall, and just put a .com for her website. But she was an attorney and now is just teaching constitutional law all over the country. I came on to the show 1 hour, 9 minutes into that, and you'll hear me address the indigenous people and what she had to say. So, again, it's really about you understanding that when you look in the mirror, ask yourself who's controlling you. You do have a higher self. You do have God. And anybody that you have to work for, do what you have to do to survive, but don't prostitute yourself. Don't compromise basic human good values that you know you have. And if there is corruption, stand up to it and ask God for your help and guidance. And that's where, again, I stand as a way shower and a phoenix rising, because a month and a half after my Earth Angel wife died, I almost died. There's a picture of her on a blog, the word creativity777.com, on her wedding day. The poem I dedicated to her is discussed in the interview as a weapon against terrorism. It's in the President Ronald Reagan Library. And Maya Angelou actually commented on my poem. You can put my name, Hugh Traulsen, and Maya Angelou. Dave was kind enough to pull up a show so you can see that on YouTube, an archive radio show, to hear what she had to say. And currently I'm looking to utilize that poem. I hope artists that may listen to this will come back and take control over this opportunity. But after my name, Hugh Traulsen, just put the words caring, sharing, the date of December 12th, 2014, and you'll hear me describe how I would like to have this poem, Caring, Sharing, be used in a special way to help the people of Haiti who can't help themselves, to show people ways that they can come out and do things to help people that they may never meet in their life, and let that be a blessing back to them. Don't look for how it's going to come back or how it will be, but just know that with gratitude in your heart, you will be blessed for anything you can do when you help other people less fortunate than yourself. And along those lines, too, I want to be sure to pay homage to a beautiful woman, one of the most talented people on the planet, who interviewed me, and she's actually my muse, so to speak, even if I never meet her, just to see who she is and what she's done for mankind. After Hugh Traulsen, if you put the words unlimited life, unconditional love, it will bring you to an archive radio program of Dame Nicole Brandon. So I do want Dave to just give a little bit more about some of the things that he's doing and some of the people that we know right from Bayside, where I grew up. And one gentleman even has something that is very easily franchisable that I'd like Dave to touch on, because I want him to really be aware that through this going out onto the internet, hopefully a lot of people pick up on this right away. Dave, please tell about Biz Connection and also about Bayside Live TV before this runs out. I think this would be good for the world.
Certainly. And again, a fellow alumni of Bayside High School, such as you, is Gregg Sullivan. Gregg Sullivan is the president of the Friends of Bayside High School. That is the school alumni and community organization. Well, Gregg has a business. He comes out of the film and news media career and started Bayside Live TV. Bayside Live TV is the microcosm of Queens Live TV, and it's the first pilot to prove out that the local community news and the connections with the people in the community is where it's all at. If you go to the BaysideLiveTV.com website and look at Gregg's work, you'll see a lot of his interviews, a lot of his capturing of what's going on with the people in the community. He's also combined that website with social media. He has in charge of a couple of different pages in Bayside, Bell Boulevard Bayside, Bayside Queens. He has a huge following. He does moderate the discussions. He doesn't allow for any disparaging comments or any kind of inappropriate discussions to take place. So it is a friendly place to talk with people who you may or may not know and have a common interest in the community. Along with Gregg, I met a gentleman. His name, he actually runs the Biz Connection. And Luke Hataruza is an interesting fellow who has come out of the banking industry and investment banking world and has created a concept that has taken what people would normally see as networking to a higher level. Everybody networks. Everybody says, hey, here's my card. Let me know if you know anybody that needs my services. And somebody will come back and say, well, hey, listen, I know somebody, he's looking to bring on a partner. Do you know anybody who wants to buy into a business? And, you share information. Well, what he's done is found a creative way to monetize your connections. And it's interesting from the standpoint that it's a win-win, total win-win for everybody. In other words, the person who is willing to pay for a transaction to occur goes ahead and gets connected to somebody who has a connection, who's willing to look into it and complete a transaction for a business matter, whether it be a financial transaction to purchase a business or to go ahead and find different other opportunities. So the bizconnection.com, it's on the internet, and Luke Hataruza has founded and created that entity. And again, I welcome everybody to take a look at it. Before we go ahead and start winding down, Hugh, I wanted to just ask a question. Because you've presented such a wealth of information here tonight. And let's just say I'm really interested in your YPod concept. What do I do next? How do I make that happen?
By coming back to discuss it in the ways that you would like to implement it through what your interests are. We're here to empower, not to control. A lot of people say I'm very vague, but I'm meant to be that way because I stay in a creative mode. I have, through my self-taught expertise of what I term creative utilization of information, I don't know, they don't teach this in schools, but I can take bits and pieces of information, and when I know somebody's interests, keep them in mind, begin to weave them together, actually create an opportunity and pre-qualify it, and bring it back to them to do successful business. So some of this I hope to get out eventually through articles and books once I have people interacting with me that can do that. I have no desire to be an author, but I would love to co-author with people because also my last name having global recognition can command a lot of attention. And I think just from what we're putting together here in this interview, it's going to have even more attention in a good way. But I also want to say in that question, I want to pay homage to my friend and mentor who has things at the ready for strategies that I'm not involved with personally, but he can put the strategies together too if the right kind of people are coming together. And that is Dr. Ed Maloney. It's spelled M like Mary, O-L-O-N as in Nancy, E-Y. His website is attractingabetterlife.com. Dave is in touch with him. Dr. Maloney has a radio program you'll see on his website, which is based on the law of attraction. Now, he is a very humble man, but I'm going to just give a quick bio so, again, you can see the quality of the type people that you're dealing with. Dr. Maloney's a true American hero. At age 13, he was national martial arts champion. He's a former Special Ops Green Beret captain from the Vietnam War who did the suicide missions behind the enemy lines that not too many people came back from. His father was a New York federal judge. Dr. Maloney himself has 3 doctorates. He's a clinical psychologist, has a doctorate in religion, a doctorate in theology, a Bible expert, an expert in the law of attraction. Also in his background, he was internal affairs police for the whole state of Florida for about 8 years, and he worked on the Ted Bundy serial killer case. He paid for his 3 doctorates. He had his own rock and roll band, a contract with Columbia Records. He toured the world and actually performed at Woodstock. He's managed huge nightclubs in Florida, as well as done consulting for nonprofits and companies on a global scale. He's authored 3 books and has his radio program based on the law of attraction on Blog Talk Radio. It's called Focus Change with Dr. Ed. All these shows are archived so people can go back and listen over and over again to get fed body, mind, and spirit. His wife is also a psychologist and an ordained minister. And again, just to touch on synchronicities and spirituality, I first came into contact with Dr. Maloney through his radio program in 2011. We've never met. I live in Virginia. He lives in Florida. But after about a year of conversations, it turns out we were in the same high school together. Bayside I only went to for a year. That was my last year. Prior to that, I was in a private Catholic boarding school, and Dr. Maloney was a day student. He wasn't a boarding student. So our paths didn't cross back then, but now they've come together in a very powerful way, again, to help this country get back on track and truly be a beacon for the rest of the world based on paradigms of spirituality and love. And I will state right here, too, that I do have I have a lot of common background with President Trump, as you'll see on the Traulsen and Trump page, and also the first archived radio program on the Rooting Out Corruption. I believe it's god-talk.com. And I support the president. I support any president. And I feel sorry that he's going through what he's going through right now. I hope that he'll begin to get some advice that he can take into his heart from those that are truly giving good advice for the benefit of this country, and tamp down the rhetoric, which is causing a lot more chaos because people are taking sound bites instead of facts and then arguing about them until they get into a rage, and that's where we shouldn't be going. Again, as I stated earlier, and Dr. Maloney told me this, that nobody ever wins an argument. And when you truly understand Dr. Maloney, you don't want to fool with him. And if you tell him a lie, you're finished. So, we have these things that are incorporated into all the strategies that the White Pot is putting out that the elites won't even see or know about, but all their money pipelines are going to be drying up as more and more transparency comes toward them. So good luck to them, but God bless everybody. And if you can't do anything else, you can say a prayer. Now, I was raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic at this point. I'm a spiritual person, but I do have my faith in Jesus Christ. And so many people are learning about Jesus, not through churches, but through their own exploration of who he really was. Dr. Maloney told me that Jesus said 2 things on how people should live their life, and that's always to put God first, and secondly, to love your neighbor as yourself. I said, that's all I need. I mean, I love the Bible stories and this and that, whatever, but if I can just bring that into my heart and practice that in my own family, in my community, and then if other people pick up and see that and do the same thing and open their heart to God and ask Jesus, then he will transform your life. And I think it's going to be a one-on-one thing. We don't need him coming down from the clouds as some kind of space alien to say, bow down and kiss my feet. If I see that happening, I'm running away from it. But I think it truly is going to be a spiritual transformation. The golden age is just one by one, people opening to their hearts. And I just don't know how much time is left. I want to say, too, I want people to go onto this website. Just Google the words The Venus Project. You'll see some information on rooting out corruption on one of the pages about it. But this has something that we can get to for a future for mankind. It may not be in our lifetimes, but it will open up your minds to what is possible. They talk about a non-monetary, global-based resource economy where everybody's sharing. The gentleman that, from the age of teenagers, he just passed in his mid-90s and was honored by the UN, Jacques Frances. He sort of has a lot of very interesting things that have good potential, so people should just focus on good things and be in gratitude each day. Look at nature. I say it's God's classroom. Just get out in it. It will lower your stress level and heighten your awareness when you look around and see the beautiful flowers, the trees, listening to the birds, and looking at the clouds in the sky. Not the chemtrails. They're accountable for that. But I say that that's not going to kill me either. That's not my reality. But those that are doing that, they'll be responsible. So, again, people have to become, at the very least, more prayerful. And it's not about any religion, but religions, I say if they all function properly, nobody on the planet would be deprived clean water, food, and proper shelter. So people come together in the community through them. That's great. So let's, in each community, address the problems through the religions, and especially the seniors, too. The seniors have to start tapping into their mind power to leave a legacy for their family and for the world. And I'm just going, as I finish up here, to get a poem that I geared towards seniors that people love to hear, and I hope that they'll play this back or find it on the website. It's on the Rooting Out Corruption site. But the poem, as I leave you, sort of ties into the essence of the potential of the YPod 2. This poem is titled Mine, M-I-N-E, Your Mind. And it reads, Mine, your mind, and you may find new gems to be discovered and uncovered. The cure for illness and the end of poverty are just two examples of what may come when someone minds their mind. Perhaps that someone is you. Ask God to guide you, and you will see unlimited possibilities and opportunities. Be kind as you open your mind, and you will learn to care and share. Once you become aware, you can change this world through love and understanding. It's not too late, but don't hesitate. But today is tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. At the end of your days, will you be in a haze or give a bequest to the rest? A poem, an invention, or a solution to pollution are waiting to be mined. It's all up to you to mine your mind and help in the betterment of all mankind. Good luck, and may God bless you. So I'm going to sort of stop at this point and leave that as an ending contemplation for people, and say to everyone, no matter who you are, I ask God to bless you and to bring you into a higher consciousness, to look at people and treat them the way you want to be treated. And as far as the world view, really think about what Gandhi said. Be the change that you want in the world, and don't go being the change of chaos. Be the change of peace and love. And one last thing, too, I like to throw out to people just to show when things get a little tricky for them. Think about, if you had a choice to make immediately, which would you rather be? An embittered paraplegic billionaire or a healthy, happy person that had your basic needs met? Now, some people might choose the billionaire, but I think after a couple of days they'll deeply regret that choice. And again, having all the riches, it can be more of a burden than a help. You got to have your private armies, and you're a target for everybody. So just share what you have. Through the law of attraction, it's going to come back to you anyway. And again, I have mentioned, and I think it's the article, Hugh Traulsen, A Simple Man with a Big Message. I discuss these billionaires having one estate instead of 10 around the world that have to be maintained by private armies that they control or whatever. So if they have the one, and then there's 10-star resorts built that they can go to anywhere in the world and be praised highly for who they are, transparently being a blessing to others, that's where I'm calling even the gurus to get off the mountains and understand that instead of just selling books and doing seminars, through the strategies we have, let the money flow. Give it to the people, and let's make this world a better place until we no longer have to rely on money, which is energy too, that we can go to that resource-based economy discussed in the Venus Project. So I know there's a lot of information here, but the beauty of this coming onto the YouTube, it can be played back and shared and discussed. That's what this is here. That's what it's meant to do. So again, I say God bless everyone, and I'll let you say your piece, whatever you have to say, Dave. And again, I do want to acknowledge you as a friend and a fellow veteran, and we have a big heart for veterans too. So veterans organizations, please come to us to see what we can do to help you and the communities too. Thank you so much, and again, God bless everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Hugh. And as you said, I'm sure that there'll be a whole wealth of information people want to go back and pick up on, because it tells such an amazing story, and it's not just one story, it's a multitude of stories. As you mentioned, the website, definitely go to the website, and do go to Facebook. Go ahead and take a look at our Facebook page. The links are all there on the website. And we'll go ahead and pick this up again on our next conversation. And again, Dave Solano, I've been here tonight with Hugh Traulsen, the Heartbeat of America, and sharing some of the information that he has with all of you. So have a great night.